it was a spectacular discovery. A silver treasure had come to light in the ruins of Antioch, metropolis of Roman Syria, and among the finds was a beautiful chalice adorned with figures of Christ and the Apostles. The chalice was acquired by an antiquities firm based in Paris, where it was cleaned and restored. But before it could be placed in the market, the First World War broke out, and the chalice was sent to New York City for safekeeping. In New York, the chalice was studied by a prominent art historian who reported that it was actually two cups, one inside the other. The outer cup, with its elaborate figures, was late Roman, but encased within was a much older vessel of plain silver, which must, the historian speculated, have been a relic of great value. The antiquities firm that owned the chalice needed no more. They had, they announced, discovered the Holy Grail, the cup used by Christ at the Last Supper. The chalice became a celebrity. It was moved to a Wall Street bank vault, where it was exhibited to prospective buyers, and made a triumphal post-war tour of Europe. It was displayed with great fanfare at the 1933 World's Fair in Chicago. It inspired a novel called The Silver Chalice, which became a Hollywood blockbuster starring Paul Newman. The Antioch Chalice, now in the Metropolitan Museum in New York City, is emphatically not the Holy Grail. But it's only one of several Roman artifacts that have been mistaken for the Grail over the centuries. This video will explore 4 of these relics, and the stories of how they came to be considered candidates for the Holy Grail. First, however, a very brief survey of the Grail Legend. The Holy Grail is not mentioned in the Bible, nor in any extant early Christian text. As we know it, the Grail is medieval. It first appeared in a poem written by Chrétien de Troyes around the end of the 12th century, in which Percival, a knight of the Round Table, finds a king fishing in a river. The king invites him back to his castle, where Percival is astonished to see a strange glowing object being carried through the main hall. This, he later learns, is the Holy Grail. Initially, the Grail was not associated with the Last Supper, or even described as a cup. Those details appeared in the works of later poets, who enlarged the story into a saga centered on the cup used by Christ. In the most familiar version, which appears in Thomas Malory's sprawling The Morte d'Arthur, Galahad, son of Lancelot, is the Grail Knight, and the Grail itself is described as the vessel that caught Christ's blood at the crucifixion. The medieval conception of the Grail, in short, was a vague one, in which the Grail was described alternately as a cup and as a dish, and only sometimes as the cup used at the Last Supper. For our purposes, it matters only that this tradition lent new potential significance to every ancient cup in the church treasuries of Europe, since any one of them could be identified as the Grail. The actual chalices used by early Christians were simple glass and terracotta cups. But medieval authors and their audiences, accustomed to elaborate liturgical vessels, assumed that the cup used at the Last Supper must have been spectacular. After the Crusades, as Roman cups and vases trickled into Western Europe from Constantinople and the Holy Land, several candidates were identified. One of the most promising was this spectacular late Roman cup, now in the Vienna Art Historical Museum. Carved from a single piece of agate, probably in a palace workshop, it was looted from Constantinople by the Crusaders, and eventually found its way into the treasury of the Habsburg emperors. The cup became famous for the veins in its stone, which seem, when viewed from a certain angle, to spell Christo, that is, Christ. This was interpreted as evidence that the cup had been the one used at the Last Supper, and prompted Ferdinand I to declare it an inalienable treasure of the House of Austria, too precious to ever be sold. In the event, it never was sold, but passed, with the other Habsburg treasures, to the Austrian state after World War I. Another Roman artifact that came to be linked with the Holy Grail is the Sacro Catino, now in the treasury of the Cathedral of San Lorenzo in Genoa. This brilliant green bowl was supposedly found by Crusaders in an ancient temple. Thought to have been carved from a single gigantic emerald, it was brought back to Genoa, and was soon being hailed as the dish used at the Last Supper, or even as the Holy Grail itself. In 1798, the dish was seized, like so many other Italian treasures, by Napoleon, who had it brought to Paris. While in transit, it broke into 10 pieces, This accident, and analysis by scholars in Paris, prove that the bowl was made of glass, not emerald. Its origins, however, remained, and still remain, elusive, with some scholars identifying the dish as late Roman work, and others preferring an origin in Sassanid Persia. Probably the most famous Roman artifact identified with the Holy Grail is the Santo Caliz of Valencia, a red agate cup likely carved in the Roman imperial era that was later transformed into a chalice with a golden base and handles. Although later legends claimed that a pope had sent the chalice to a Spanish monastery for safekeeping, the chalice's whereabouts are unattested before the 15th century, when it was sold to the Valencia Cathedral. It remains there today, still venerated for its association with the Last Supper. The Antioch Chalice, to return to our opening anecdote, hasn't been so lucky. Its identification as the Holy Grail was always rejected by scholars, and even its authenticity has been disputed. Most historians now agree that the Antioch Chalice is genuinely ancient, but that it wasn't created until late antiquity. In fact, it probably wasn't even a chalice. To judge from its shape, it was more likely a standing lamp made for a church near Antioch. The 4 vessels discussed in our video have nothing much in common besides being old and capable of holding fluid. Yet together, I think, they embody the fascination of the Holy Grail. The object of the quest is unattainable, but the quest itself is a noble and worthwhile thing. If you enjoyed this video, please consider supporting Told in Stone on Patreon. You might also be interested in my book, Naked Statues, Fat Gladiators, and War Elephants. Thanks for watching.